criminals. Common sense conservatives are going to put an end to this madness. We're going to bring home the country we know and love. Now let's go through the common sense plan. 1, we're going to bring home lower prices by axing the carbon tax. And it starts with passing Bill C 2, 3, 4 to axe the tax on farmers and food so farmers can make the food and Canadians can afford to eat it. Pass the bill unamended today and let Canadians eat affordable food. It's very easy. The House of Commons passed it once before. The Senate, under duress and pressure from this Prime Minister, then sent it back with unnecessary amendments. Now, the other opposition parties are flip-flopping and wavering. They agree in principle with the Liberal plan to quadruple the carbon tax, but they said, well, we might consider giving the farmers a break on it. Well, now they're not so sure. They're siding with this costly Prime Minister again on keeping the tax on our farmers. And every time our people go to the grocery store and see those rising prices, they will know that the NDP has betrayed working class people in favor of greedy government with higher taxes on farmers and higher taxes on the single moms who are struggling to feed their families. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, we are going to axe the tax on home heat, not just for some or for a short time, but for everybody, everywhere, always. Common sense conservatives call on the Prime Minister to be consistent. Don't just temporarily pause the tax in regions where your polls are plummeting and your caucus is revolting. Rather, let's axe the tax for every Canadian household to heat their homes in this devastatingly cold winter. Incredible. In Edmonton, how cold did it get in Edmonton? Minus 50. And the Liberal member for Edmonton Centre voted to tax the heat of Edmontonians. Not only that, the Liberal member for Edmonton Centre wants to quadruple the carbon tax on the home heat of Edmontonians. So over the next several years, as the winter cold comes in and the people crank up their heat, their bills will rise faster and faster. Some places now, the carbon tax is more expensive than the actual gas that people are buying. The bills, some of my caucus members, we're going to be sharing these bills. If you have any bills with carbon tax itemized, let's share them so that everybody knows how badly this Prime Minister and his NDP coalition are ripping off Canadians for the crime of heating themselves in minus 50 weather. We are the only party that will axe the tax for them, for everyone, everywhere, always, Madam Speaker. In our common sense plan to bring home lower prices, it includes capping spending. Capping the spending that has driven the inflation, a $600 billion increase in spending and debt, which means printing money. Printing money bids up the goods we buy and the interest we pay. In fact, government spending is up 75% since this Prime Minister took office. He's nearly doubled the cost of the government in a time when the economy has barely grown at all. In fact, the economy is shrinking while the government is expanding, which means that the government is gobbling up an increasing share of a shrinking pie. And that means there's less left for everyone else. Right now, the government is rich and the people are poor. The government is rich and the people are poor because this Prime Minister cannot stop spending, and his greedy NDP coalition counterparts push him to spend even more of other people's money. Our common sense plan would cap spending and cut waste. We'll get rid of the $35 billion infrastructure bank, the $54 million Arrive Canada, the $1 billion so-called green fund that's really a slush fund. We will cut back on the money wasted on consultant insiders who now consume $21 billion tax dollars a year, an amount that is equal to $1,400 for every family in Canada. We will be cutting back on this waste so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates so that Canadians can eat, heat, and house themselves. We are going to unleash the growth of our economy. Instead of creating more cash, we're going to create more of what cash buys. We have the most powerful resources, perhaps the greatest supply of natural resources per capita of any country on earth, and we are very good at harvesting those resources to the benefit of our people and our environment at the same time. This Prime Minister, with the help of the NDP, has been driving the production to other countries where they pollute more, where they burn more coal, where they add more greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. This Prime Minister would drive the production away from Canadians who use the cleanest electricity, among the cleanest electricity grids on planet Earth, instead of bringing it home here to this country. Our common sense plan will repeal C-69 and replace it with a new law that protects the environment, consults First Nations, but gets projects built that we can bring home the paychecks for our people and take the money away from the dirty dictators of the world. I know I was able to announce recently that our new candidate in the Skeena-Bulkley Valley riding is the great Ellis Ross, former chief of the Haisla First Nation, who is responsible for bringing Canada the biggest ever investment in its history. That is the LNG Canada project, a project that was approved by the former Harper government. And the only reason it was able to go ahead under this government is because they gave the project an exemption from the carbon tax. Had the tax applied, the project never would have occurred. Had C-69, the anti-resource law, been in place, the project never would have happened. And by the government's own admission, this project will reduce greenhouse gas emissions around the world by millions of tons because it will displace dirty coal-fired electricity in Asia by sending clean, green Canadian natural gas, liquefied using hydroelectricity and our natural cold weather, sent abroad on our shortest shipping distances, which means burning less fossil fuels to get it to market. This will displace more emissions-intensive forms of energy in countries where they need to cut back. That is a solution to fight climate change and protect our environment. And thank God we had the visionary leadership of the great Ellis Ross to make that project happen, along with Stephen Harper. Unfortunately, this Prime Minister has blocked every other LNG project from coming to fruition. There were 18 of these projects on the table when he took office. Not one of them is completed. Only LNG, the aforementioned, oh, we got a cheer over there. Oh, we got a cheer over there. It was one of the, the Marxist member from, what's your riding again? Sorry? Rosemont Petit-Patry, he took that Marxist comment as a compliment, by the way. Believe me, he's told me that off the record. He tells me, he tells us that he's speaking perhaps on behalf of the NDP. He cheers when he hears that this Prime Minister has blocked every LNG project. Well,